Tonight, how the Attorney General wants to license police officers.
And do you know this man? Police are searching for the suspect who smashed their window.
Plus, what we are learning about 2 new COVID-19 deaths in Peoria County. This is 25 News at 10.
From WEEK, your home team. This is 25 News at 10.
Despite 2 new deaths in Peoria, the Tri-County area, as well as the rest of the state, continues to see a decline in the severity of COVID-19. Good Saturday evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Lopez.
And I'm Amber Kriska. Thank you for joining us tonight. But is that enough to move to phase 4? Or could protests cause a spike in cases and delay that transition? Kyle Beachy explains in tonight's top story.
Well, it's been just over 1 week since the Tri-County area, Peoria County on one side of the river and Tazewell and Woodford County on this side of the river, entered into phase 3 of the Restore Illinois plan. But what's it going to take to get to phase 4, and how long until we get there? Daily COVID-19 briefings are done, and Peoria City County Health Administrator Monica Hendrickson says that means progress.
I think it's a good sign that we are.
Bloomington police are looking for the person who smashed the window of a squad car during an otherwise peaceful protest. Take a look at your screen right here. They've released this video from May 31st in the hope that someone will recognize the man involved. Bloomington PD was blocking traffic and providing security for a protest near North Madison and West Washington streets when it happened. Here's a closer look at the man they are looking for. Crime Stoppers is offering up to $1,000 if you can identify this man and it leads to an arrest. City leaders in Bloomington say they are listening to protesters demanding the end of systematic racism in law enforcement. During a virtual city council meeting tonight, all members spoke on possible changes that could be made. But council member Jen Carrillo was the only one who called for a reduction in police funding, saying leaders need to consider the justice system was, quote, built on bad principle and needs to be completely and radically reimagined.
And I like to think of myself as an abolitionist. And while that sounds really radical, I actually think it's very, very possible.
All city council members who spoke tonight called for some sort of change in policing.
Attorney General Kwame Raoul wants to license the police. Illinois does have a certification process now, but officers can only be decertified if they're convicted of a Class 4 felony. Raoul says there are many cases where officers may be fired and then move on to a different department without issue. The Attorney General says a licensing process would allow for misconduct reviews and consideration for revoking a license.
They often have their hands tied by collective bargaining agreements, by other measures that are in the law that makes it difficult for them to deal with bad apples.
Raoul says his plan could help remove cops like Derek Chauvin in Minnesota, who had 18 complaints filed against him before he was charged in the murder of George Floyd.
There's a group effort to take the outrage over a police custody death and channel it in the Twin Cities. This rally took place today in front of the Bloomington Center for Performing Arts, the NAACP. They were there, and the group Not in Our Town, the McLean County Sheriff's Office, Bloomington Police, and the Illinois State University Police, they all came together to support the Black Lives Matter movement. Around 100 people were there, and some of those people there told us they'd experienced racism in the Twin Cities.
Almost like they're rejecting what the world was and seeing a different world, and that gives me more hope than anything. And it's not even just these matters; they're open to the environment, to everything. Their energy is very positive for this movement.
The rally ended with 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence, the length of time that a police officer could be seen in video with his knee on George Floyd's neck before he died May 25th. Peoria's Black Justice Project is calling for Peoria police to release evidence in recent officer-involved shootings. They are organizing a protest for tomorrow, beginning at 5 in the evening outside the Peoria Police Station. The group wants PPD to release all complaints registered against any officers involved in any police-involved deaths in the last 3 years.
Support for the Black Lives Matter movement continues to grow among professional athletes, both here in the U.S. and overseas as well. In fact, this past weekend brought another wave of peaceful protests and marches with athletes right in the mix. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell even apologized for the way the league previously dealt with these protests. Locally, Derek Booth of Peoria Public Schools is watching those developments closely and sees this as a positive way to inspire younger generations to speak out against social injustice.
And so when they now see professional athletes also being involved in social justice issues, it also communicates to them the responsibility is more than just on the court. Or like you look at a Roger Goodell, the move that he made and statements that he made yesterday, I thought were monumental. It's okay to be a powerful person and say, I'm sorry, we got it wrong. We were wrong. We didn't listen. And I am going to allow for peaceful protest.
Booth says he hopes this is just the start to more dialogue regarding racial issues. And tomorrow, Bradley University's athletic department plans to march from campus to the Civic Center at 6 p.m. Arguments are done. Now it's up to the jury to decide whether Christopher Harrison is guilty of fatally shooting two men who tried to rob him 2 years ago. In closing arguments on Friday, the prosecutor described Harrison as a proud and callous drug dealer. He said Harrison could have done a lot of things, but chose to chase the men down and shoot them 21 times, emptying an entire magazine of clips into their backs. The defense attorney, though, argued the case is about self-defense and says his client was legally defending himself from two men who were there to try to rob him.
Smoke them. Yes, he did. That's first-degree murder.
Your freedom allows you to defend yourself and your property.
The jury deliberated for a little over an hour Friday evening. They will resume at 9 a.m. on Monday. With Phase 3 of Restore Illinois, restaurants have reopened their doors to outdoor dining for the first time in months, and the weather couldn't be better.
That's right. And so Luke is going out to eat too, and he takes us to Normal's Distill Restaurant and Brew Works for this week's You Gotta Eat.
Now that we're finally allowed to physically go to restaurants, let's try Distill. Now, of course, we're eating outside today. Executive Chef here, MJ Gibson, says it's a welcome change to kind of be back to normal.
It has been an awesome experience to have guests come out each and every day and enjoy the patio.
But don't worry, social distancing and cleanliness is still top priority at all restaurants like this as they begin to reopen their doors. Now, once you get to your table, you can finally
And Distill is open 7 days a week. Luke says with every purchase of the banana cream pie, a portion of the proceeds goes to the Nelson Memorial Fund, providing financial assistance to local nonprofit charities. Making me hungry over there, Tyler.
Oh yeah, the banana pie looked fantastic.
Coming up next on 25 News, we are getting ready for a 1-2 weather punch starting tomorrow.
This is it, as crews already start to remove protections from our last severe weather threat. Chuck tells you what's next after the break.